These are my kind of thoughts on Star Trek Discovery, and do you know what? I'm kind of in the two frames of mind. I like it and I don't. And mainly, like, first of all, I'm just gonna start off with things I like. I really kind of like this two-parter. I thought the story was really interesting and a very great way of saying, hey, Star Trek's back. Now, I've watched it on Netflix. I know it's out in America in CBS, on the CBS network. And first of all, as I say, it's nice to have Star Trek back on TV. I think originally I have said in a previous video that I would have loved to see Star Trek back on the screen, but in a way not like this, and I'll kind of go into this in a little bit. Now, this, as I say, story is solid. I like the beginning wise. It felt very kind of Star Trek-ish to me, and it felt very kind of, you know, they're helping out people, but they didn't want to be kind of involved, you know, so they were helping out. And I really like the kind of like the way that, again, this is probably going to contain spoilers, so yeah, sorry, gonna put that at the beginning of the video. So when they make the symbol, and it's just like, it's really cool, and I really liked it. The intro sequence, it's very different. It's not the same as what we've normally had. I'm okay with it. I think it's okay. It's okay. But I'm really glad Netflix has like a skip intro, because I watched the intro first, so I was like, that's cool. I don't want to watch that again. So yeah, that was absolutely fine. Okay, so now the kind of my like, it's very hard not to kind of talk about it without dropping spoilers if you haven't seen it. So the crew is really interesting. I instantly liked most of them straight away. Like the way that they were kind of thrust into this entire situation of the actual, like, the two-parter, I was absolutely fine with. And I also like the fact that there's a Power Ranger on the bridge. Although he's not a Power Ranger, but it's the Blue SPD Ranger. I'm quite cool that he's on there. But it felt very kind of, I kind of want to say, like, in the two minds, I'm kind of thrown into it being a Star Trek series and it just being like a generic sci-fi show. And it did feel kind of like both. It felt like it was just generally a sci-fi show. It had some element of Star Trek, but so apparently this is 10 years before Kirk, and it's in the main canon timeline. So it's before the original series. Now, I have a very big issue when it comes to this sorts of things, mainly just because of the way that we use technology today and the way that technology is implemented. Now, from when I remembered Star Trek the original series, they didn't have like LCD screens, plasma displays, you know, amazing sorts of effects, as well as like the kind of like security measures like force fields, weapons, as well as cloaking technology like the way it was. And this is when I have a major issue with it, because I hate to say this, Enterprise did this kind of a little bit better. Not the story, because to be honest, the story is actually quite interesting, but the way that they brought technology. Now, they could have gone back at that time, straight after what Voyager had, like the consoles, they could have had everything, but they didn't. They kind of used like buttons, and they didn't go straight in for a lot of stuff. Transport technology, they kind of used a little bit, but they were kind of devious, like, oh, don't know. And these things were kind of fine to me then, but when looking at this like Discovery, I just feel that this should have been set after Voyager, where it could have been amazing. Oh, I know a lot of fans may turn around and say, well, you know, we have Star Trek back on TV, but to be honest, we should have had the progression of Star Trek all the way through, not just going back to Enterprise and then now going like 10 years before the original series. It should have been straight after. This, if you set this, like, say, I don't know, like 100, 200 years in the future, this would be amazing. You could have the Klingons like breaking down. They don't want anything to do with the Federation. You know, pretty much all the past crew have now gone from the past series or seasons, and now you have, you know, the whole major part of a new storyline where the parts of the Klingons want to come and destroy the Federation because they've had enough of like what went through previously, to the point where it could have been a whole new race. And this, they didn't feel like Klingons to me. It felt like, how do I say, it didn't feel like it was them at all. It felt like they were another warrior race that have just come along and wanted to destroy things, destroy the Federation because they didn't like it previously. And this is what I kind of think already. And yeah, I'm watching it because I enjoyed parts of the story, but there's things that just don't make sense. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, why can't we move forward? Why can't we have a new Star Trek? You've got Star Trek Online. They're doing really well with loads of stories, loads of different things that they've put in, which would make great Star Trek series. You know, you could have had Discovery as the latest one, not going back. And I generally feel that a lot of people, when they make a Star Trek thing, when it comes to officially making it, not like fan made or anything like that, but when it comes to like TV shows, they have this fixation on before the Kirk era because, you know, Star Trek the original series kicked everything off, which was a huge success. But you know, if you imagine like if Gene Roddenberry and you know other people that worked on the show did this and they went back in time and went, do you know what, we really like Kirk did amazing, Star Trek the original series did amazing, let's go beyond that, let's go back, let's not move forward with the progression. And I kind of really, it makes me sad and disappointed that we've not got this, and it just feels like we're going back in time. All the time, back to it. But this also kind of feels like this should be in the movie universe, you know, with the new Star Trek films. I kind of see it more sitting in that timeline because it would make perfect sense. The way that technology is, the way that people interact, weapons, stuff like that would have been perfect for before the film franchise. And you could easily do that and do any sort of story, but I kind of have a problem when it's set into canon timeline and it just keeps going back, and it just feels that, I know Star Trek the original series is outdated now, but I feel that if you were going to go through Enterprise, Discovery, original series, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, I kind of feel that you're just trying to either make money or you're trying to get a lot of, like, I don't want to say older fans, but you're kind of like using it to some degree where it's like, well, Kirk did really well, so if we said it before them, people will fall in love with Star Trek and people will think that this is what Star Trek's meant to be. And I always think of Star Trek as a progression of the future, not just a generic let's go back. Now, when I saw like the first episode and then kind of going into the second one, it really reminded me of Star Trek the film. I kind of see it that suited more and more than normal. That's how I kind of see it, and it's kind of very disheartening to the point where it's we're going back, not forwards, and I don't know why people do that. It just generally just annoys me. But as my mini rant's going on, the stories were solid. It was fine. It was interesting, and it didn't kind of like. It didn't make me go, oh, I want to turn off. I just can't be bothered anymore. I actually generally was like, do I go get breakfast? Do I get a cup of tea? I want to watch 1 and 2. And I found myself just watching the first episode and then going straight into the second one and loving it and liking the series. And, you know, I like the fact that it's now back on television or on Netflix to some degree. I think they're only going up to, is it 13 to 15 episodes? When I was watching the Behind the Trek thing, or Beyond, or whatever it's called, and they said that they were writing 15. I always thought it was just 10 episodes. So yeah, just to me, it just feels kind of like it's a good start, but I think this would have been perfect if it was in like set like 100 years after Voyager. That to me would have been kind of like perfect and something that I would have really enjoyed. And I think in the back of my mind, I'm going to see this as the after Voyager type thing, because the whole, just think of the story, it is awesome. It's like, as soon as Janeway got back, 100 years, the Federation have had a massive war. The Klingons have just had enough and they want their own stuff. They don't want anything to do with the Federation, so they go off and hide. 100 years pass, and then all of a sudden, you know, the Federation could find, you know, and say, hey, we've not seen the Klingons. But the Klingons have evolved, they've changed. And the way, if you put it like that, it sounds really exciting. Like, it's generally, like, amazing. And, see, that I get more hyped up than thinking 10 years before Kirk. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But the whole thing, And one thing would have been awesome is, like, you easily could have had the Prometheus in this. That would be cool. I just think that's what it should be. But yeah, the series is good. I'm gonna continue watching it every single week, and I'm glad. I am actually really glad that this is going to be like a weekly thing, because I think that if you put it all in one go and just binge watch it, I think you'd be like, I can't be bothered, and oh, alright, that was fine. You know, there's suspense. Now it's like, I really want to know what happens. I really want to see what is concluded and what goes on. So I'm looking forward to it now being weekly. So I'm going to be tuning in and watching it. That I'm kind of excited about, because that to me is like every single week waiting for Star Trek. So yeah. So Rangers, your question of the day is, what do you think about this? Do you like the fact that Star Trek Discovery is on? Are you excited that it's set 10 years before Kirk? Or would you have preferred to have it like me, like 100 years after Voyager, etc, etc? Or do you think that the next Star Trek series that they ever do will be set in the timeline between original series and next gen? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you've liked this video, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the other videos on the channel. And as of the moment, I think Patreon's not working. If you want to help support the channel on Patreon, the link is in the description down below. And yeah, and as always, Rangers, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a bit.